Ever had that moment where you're in a conversation and suddenly everything goes silent in your head?
You know that feeling where the perfect thing to say comes to you 30 minutes later, right?
But what if I told you that's completely fixable? What if you could train your brain to respond instantly?
Not just respond with confidence and clarity that makes people listen. That's exactly what we're breaking down today on Talk, Learn, Teach. Stay with us.
Welcome to Talk, Learn, Teach. I'm James, and this is my co-host Maya. Thank you so much for being here. If you're new, please hit that subscribe button because what we're covering today will transform how you communicate. And hey, share this with someone who gets nervous in conversations. They'll appreciate it.
Absolutely. James, I want to start with something that happened to me just last week. I was at this work gathering, and someone asked me what I thought about a new marketing strategy the company was launching.
And?
And I just froze, completely blanked out. I know marketing, I've worked with these strategies before, but in that moment, my brain decided to take an unplanned vacation. I stood there for like 5 seconds that felt like 5 hours, and then I just mumbled something that made no sense.
That's such a relatable moment, and I'm sure a lot of our listeners have been there too. What's interesting is that you actually knew the answer.
Exactly. That's what frustrated me the most. I went home that night thinking about all the brilliant points I could have made. Why does that happen? Why can't we access that knowledge when we need it most?
It's psychological, actually. When we get put on the spot, our nervous system activates this response called cognitive overload. Basically, you're overcomplicating the situation in your head, and that stops your brain from functioning normally.
So it's not that I don't know the answer, it's that my brain is getting in its own way?
Yes, exactly that. Your brain is essentially fighting against itself. And the frustrating part is that this skill, the ability to think fast and respond intelligently, this is absolutely trainable. It's not some magical talent that certain people are born with.
Okay, so before we jump into the solutions, let's talk about why this matters. Why should people care about thinking faster?
Great question. Think about a job interview. You're sitting there across from someone who's deciding whether to give you an opportunity that could change your life. They ask a question. If you hesitate too long, if you stumble over your words, they're going to make an assumption about your competence, whether that's fair or not,
Right. They're going to think you don't know your stuff.
even if you do. And here's something research shows. People who think and speak quickly are perceived as more intelligent, more confident, and more trustworthy. It's not actually fair, but it's true.
That's kind of sad, but I believe it. I've definitely made those judgments about people myself without meaning to.
We all have. And it's not just interviews, it's networking events, casual conversations, dating situations, family gatherings. Anywhere where you're trying to make an impression or contribute meaningfully to a conversation, your ability to respond quickly and clearly matters.
So it's not about being fast just for the sake of being fast.
No, it's about accessing what you already know when you need to access it. It's about being present in conversations instead of being stuck in your own head. It's about confidence in presence. Okay, so what's actually stopping us from doing this naturally? Why do our brains freeze up? There are actually several things happening at once, and we should talk about each one. The first is what I call the perfectionism trap. A lot of people, especially people learning English, they want to construct the perfect sentence before they speak.
Oh, no, I do this all the time.
Right? So you're standing there internally drafting your response like you're writing an essay. You're checking the grammar, making sure the word choice is sophisticated enough, and meanwhile the conversation has moved on without you.
And then you feel even more awkward bringing it back up.
Exactly, it's this vicious cycle. The second obstacle is fear of mistakes. I've talked to so many people who tell me they're terrified of saying something wrong, of mispronouncing a word, of sounding silly.
But making mistakes is literally how you learn language.
It's how you learn everything. But our brains are wired to avoid shame and embarrassment. So when we're in a situation where we might make a mistake in front of people, we just shut down. We go quiet.
So, how do we override that? That's a pretty deep instinct.
It is, but the good news is that the moment you understand what's happening, you can start to work with it instead of against it. The third thing stopping us is what I call the narrative paralysis. This is when you're trying to tell a story or make a point, and you get caught up in getting every detail right.
Like you're mid-sentence and suddenly you're not sure if you said something correctly 5 minutes ago?
Yes, and you start second guessing yourself, and that breaks your momentum. Then there's the language barrier aspect. If English isn't your first language, you're translating in your head before speaking. You're thinking in your native language, then translating, then remembering vocabulary, and by the time all that's done, the moment has passed.
That sounds exhausting.
It is exhausting. And there's one more thing. We don't listen actively. We're too busy thinking about what we want to say next to actually hear what the other person is saying. And when you don't fully understand the question or comment, it's way harder to respond quickly.
Okay, so we've got perfectionism, fear, narrative paralysis, the language barrier, and poor listening. That's a lot going on.
It is. But here's what's beautiful. Each of these has a solution. And once you understand the solutions, you can start implementing them right away. Let's talk about the first one. The biggest shift is accepting that good enough is actually perfect.
What do you mean?
I mean that in real conversations, people don't expect perfection. They expect authenticity. They expect you to be real. So the moment you stop trying to construct this perfect sentence and just start speaking naturally, you actually sound better.
So it's about releasing the pressure?
Exactly. The pressure is what's slowing you down. Release the pressure, and suddenly your brain has more space to work. I actually did an experiment with this. I took a speaking class where we had to have conversations without stopping to think. No pauses. You just keep going.
How did that feel?
Terrifying at first, but after about 3 sessions, something clicked. Once I accepted that I was going to make mistakes and that it was okay, I actually talked more fluently than when I was trying to be perfect.
That's interesting. So the paradox is that trying to be perfect actually makes you worse.
Completely. It's like trying to run fast while thinking about your running form. You'll actually slow down. But if you just run, your body naturally finds good form.
I like that analogy. Okay, so accepting imperfection is one strategy. What's next?
The next one is preparation. And I want to be clear, this isn't about memorizing responses. It's about familiarizing yourself with topics you know you'll encounter.
Can you give me an example?
Sure. If you know you're going to a networking event, spend 10 minutes thinking about topics that might come up. What would people ask a person in your field? What would they want to know about you? What are current events or trends you could discuss?
So you're kind of preloading your brain with possible conversation paths.
Yes. And here's the thing. You're not memorizing specific answers. You're just getting your brain familiar with the terrain so that when someone asks a question, it's not completely new. Your brain has already done some initial processing.
That makes sense. It's like the difference between getting lost on a street you've never seen versus navigating a neighborhood you've been to before.
Perfect metaphor. And this works for everyday conversations too. If you're meeting a new person, think about what you might talk about. If you're joining a meeting at work, review the agenda and think about points you might want to make.
Does that take a lot of time?
Not really. We're talking 5-10 minutes, but it makes a huge difference because your brain isn't starting from zero. Now, the third strategy, and this is a game changer, is using what I call strategic pauses.
Okay, tell me more.
Most people think that pausing makes you look unsure. Actually, the opposite is true. Confident people pause. They take a moment to think, but the key is doing it the right way.
What's the right way?
You acknowledge the question or statement before pausing. So instead of just going silent, you say something like, "That's an excellent point," or "Let me think about that for a second." This does 2 things. First, it buys your brain time. Second, it signals to the other person that you're taking them seriously.
So you're not just staring blankly at them.
Exactly. You're engaged. You're thoughtful. And here's something else. When you pause intentionally like that, people respect it. They see it as confidence, not confusion.
What about in situations where you can't pause, like rapid-fire questions?
That's where simple structures matter. Most people try complex, multi-layered responses, but simplicity wins. Instead of exploring 5 angles about AI, just say, I think AI is powerful, but I'm concerned about job displacement. Clear, direct, easy to build on.
You're thinking one sentence ahead?
Exactly. The next strategy is reframing questions. People get caught off guard because they don't fully understand what's being asked. Just say, so what you're asking is that right? It gives your brain time to process and shows you're paying attention. It absolutely does. Your body affects your mind. If you're slumped over, your breathing gets shallow, reducing oxygen to your brain. When you sit up straight and make eye contact, your brain works better. You think faster, access memory faster.
So posture actually affects thinking speed?
It does. Breathing is huge, too. A lot of people hold their breath when nervous, which makes everything worse. Take a deep breath before responding. Calm your nervous system, increase oxygen flow, suddenly thinking becomes easier.
So physical practices matter.
Yes. Posture, breathing, eye contact, these are tools that accelerate thinking. And the last major strategy is active listening. I know I mentioned it earlier, but it deserves its own section because it's so powerful.
Why is listening such a big deal for thinking fast?
Because when you're truly listening, you don't create something from nothing. You respond to what's already been said. Much easier to build on an idea than create one from scratch. When you listen actively, you pick up on tone, emotion, context, which helps your brain understand what response is needed.
Bad listening leads to bad responses?
Almost always, you're answering a different question, missing the real point. But when you listen carefully, everything becomes clearer.
Okay, so we've covered a lot. Accepting imperfection, preparation, strategic pauses, simple structures, reframing, physical practices, and active listening. That's a comprehensive toolkit.
It really is, and the beautiful part is that you can start using any of these today. You don't need to master all of them at once. Pick one, practice it for a week, then add another one.
What if someone's struggling with all of this?
Then practice conversation rehearsal. Practice with a friend or even by yourself. Have conversations out loud, not in your head. Get comfortable speaking and thinking on your feet.
Does it feel weird?
Absolutely. Talking to yourself feels bizarre, but it works because your brain processes vocalized speech differently. You build muscle memory for speaking. Just like an instrument, your vocal cords develop patterns that make everything feel natural.
That's really helpful. So the core message here is that thinking fast is a skill you can develop.
It's 100% a skill. It's not talent. Some people might have a slight head start because of their personality or background, but everyone can get better at this. It takes understanding what's happening in your brain, it takes intentional practice, and it takes patience with yourself.
What do you mean by patience with yourself?
I mean that you're going to have moments where you still blank out. You're still going to say things that are awkward. You're still going to think of the perfect response 5 minutes later. That's normal. That's part of the process. The goal isn't perfection. The goal is progress.
Progress. I like that.
And as you practice these techniques, you'll notice that the blank out moments happen less frequently. They're less intense, and your recovery time gets faster. Eventually, you get to a place where thinking quickly just becomes your default mode.
That sounds amazing.
It is. And here's something else. Once you get comfortable thinking fast in conversations, it starts bleeding into other areas of your life. You solve problems faster. You make decisions more confidently. You feel more present in every interaction.
It's like this skill unlocks everything else.
Exactly. It's foundational. Because so much of life is happening in real time, in conversations, in meetings, in negotiations, in moments where you need to think on your feet. And the more comfortable you are with that, the more you're able to show up as your best self.
All right, James. I think we've covered a lot of ground here. I'm actually feeling inspired to practice some of this myself.
Seriously, try it. Pick one technique and practice it this week. Notice what happens. Notice how different conversations feel when you're not putting so much pressure on yourself.
And I think our listeners should try it too, especially people who are learning English or who feel nervous in conversations. You have more capability than you probably think you do.
That's such a good point. Your knowledge and your intelligence are in there. You just need to develop the tools to access it quickly. That's all this is.
Now, before we wrap up, I want to remind everyone that this is exactly why you should subscribe to Talk, Learn, Teach. We drop episodes like this regularly, where we're diving deep into practical skills that actually improve your life.
Absolutely. And share this episode with someone you know who gets nervous in conversations, someone who struggles to think on their feet. That person is probably feeling really isolated, like they're the only one who experiences this, but they're not. This is incredibly common.
And the fact that they're even aware of it means they're already on the path to fixing it. So please share this.
And we would love to hear from you. Drop a comment and tell us about a time when you felt that moment of blank out. Or tell us about a conversation where you think you could have responded better. Or better yet, tell us about a conversation where you absolutely crushed it.
We want to hear those victory stories too.
Yes, those are so motivating because when other people see that you've had a breakthrough, it gives them hope that they can too.
That's beautiful, James. All right, everyone. Thanks so much for being here. We're genuinely grateful for your time. You could be doing anything right now, and you chose to spend it with us, learning and growing your English skills.
That means the world to us, so thank you. And remember, thinking fast isn't about being perfect, it's about being present. It's about having the confidence to let your knowledge and personality shine through without the static of self-doubt.
And that, my friends, is something you absolutely can develop, one conversation at a time.
Keep practicing, keep learning, keep taking those leaps forward in your English journey and your communication skills.
We'll see you next time on Talk, Learn, Teach.
Keep talking, keep thinking, and keep growing. See you soon.